Hello, and thank you for joining me for Deanna's studio for today's segment of book club. It's the book club highlights, where we are currently focusing in on reading the book. It's from author Edwin Black, and it's called IBM and the Holocaust. And before I get started with this, I wanted to kind of just share a little bit about some of the reasons why I chose this book. Number one, I do believe that, I've said this before, but I do believe that I'm actually supposed to share this book, not just because I thought it's a good idea and all that. I really do feel like the Lord wanted me to share this book because I saw a lot of similar patterns that we are seeing within our society. And also, like with the COVID pandemic situation, there was just similarities, similar patterns, similar things. It almost looked like, honestly, when you read this book, you may have the same experience that I did, where it almost looked like it was a playbook that was being played out, within not just our government, but just within the world, our society around us, where it seems to be somewhat like of a strategy that we saw take place in the Holocaust, with the Nazi Party. We have the current rise of communism that is one of the major threats that we're confronted with right now. So, and basically, and then, just more recently, we're being confronted with Islam as well. And in the one of the last postings that I presented, I had mentioned that the common ground with all of these different entities is that behind all of this, there is a spirit of tyranny that is at work. And we do see that, spirit of tyranny, and it's coming at us from all these different angles. And even when we look back on what we saw with the COVID pandemic, and we saw, the Antifa groups, the way they were going around burning cities down, basically breaking, destroying businesses, shattering the windows and burning buildings down and things like that. Just a lot of violence. That's the fruit of tyranny. It's all the fruit of tyranny. Even I would say the technocratic movement, that there's a spirit of tyranny at work. It's said to be very similar to communism. One of the founders, his last name is Scott, and he actually said that he thought that communism was a little too kind of like soft, a little like it wasn't tough enough, it wasn't aggressive enough. So with the technocratic belief system, he felt like he wanted to be more, a little harsher, a little more strict, because with the technocrat belief system, what they do is they monitor everything. They monitor everything that we do. It's all being monitored by them through their computer technology, and that's one of their functions. Within the technocratic movement, is that they're going to be sitting there, and they basically, what that equals is an enslavement to society, within our society. So now I chose this book also because of I'm going to share something a little bit on a personal note. About 14 years ago, I had moved back to my hometown. And I have actually been persecuted pretty bad here in my community as I've come back. And so after a few years of living here, I would say maybe like, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 years or so, maybe 3 years. I'm estimating, but it wasn't when I first moved back, but it was, just kind of early on, maybe a couple of years as I've been here. I began to, because I felt like I was being very persecuted and singled out and harassed and, things like that. And I began to, for some reason, I started to be drawn to the movie of Anne Frank, the Jews as they went through the Holocaust, and this spirit of totalitarian spirit, that they were being persecuted by through the Nazi party, and on a lower scale, of course, because nothing that I've gone through has been, would be equivalent to what they experienced in the Holocaust. But on a lower scale or a smaller scale, I started to, in some ways, maybe, I don't know if I want to say identify, but I started to feel like, man, I feel like I'm being so persecuted, and I knew that they were a people group that had been so singled out, marginalized, persecuted, genocide. They snuffed them out. They genocided them, and I just felt like I've been drawn to that movie. It's actually called The Hiding Place. And so during that time, I had actually looked for it, and I found it. I saw it, and I go, oh, so I watched it, and when I was in junior college, we did read the book, The Story of Anne Frank. So it's not something that I was unfamiliar with, but I guess I didn't realize at that time that I believe now in hindsight, I believe that the Lord was trying to show me a spirit that I was dealing with, that was, persecuting me. It's a spirit of tyranny. And I think the Lord was trying to show me, this same spirit that is persecuting you, this is the spirit that was behind the Holocaust, the persecution of the Jews, and in Auschwitz, and the whole Holocaust situation. Well, and it wasn't just the Jews. There was other people groups that were persecuted and sent to the concentration camps. But when we think about Auschwitz, the first people group we think of are the Jewish people, but it wasn't just the Jewish people. There were others, or Polish people also, and other, nationalities. But they did actually go very aggressively. Anybody that had like a mixture of Jewish blood and Polish, like maybe a Polish Jew, or, any kind of mixture of Jewish blood, those are the ones that they singled out, and they went after them, and they exterminated them, basically. Anyways, so I said that to say this many, many, many years ago, and I realize now, in this time, in this season, this day, I realize that the Lord was trying to show me what was coming, and I was already experiencing it. And, years ago when I moved back, I've lived here for 14 years now, but I was born and raised in this city. And I just believe that because of that, because I felt like I was being led to watch that movie. It was called The Hiding Place. It's about Anne Frank and how they were hiding in their house from the Nazis, and the way their lives, the stuff that was going on in their lives as they were trying to survive, being thrown, into the concentration camps and all that stuff. So when I was doing some real basic research on a book that I'm getting ready to publish. And I happened to come across, actually by accident, I just came across this book. And because of, like the story that I just shared with you, then I was just suddenly drawn to, like, what is this? So I started looking into it, and because I think you can get a Kindle edition as well. You can get an edition online. But it was, as I read it, I saw the contents of it, and I realized, you know what, I need to buy this book. I need this book. And I honestly believe everybody needs to buy this book. This is a timely word. This is what's coming. This is what's coming down the pipe for us. And I'm sharing this as a warning, and I really truly believe that God wanted me to share this as a warning to wake people up, because things are not okay. Even though there's some good things taking place, we see this, a lot of different things that are good that are taking place, but there's some things that are not being addressed to the level that they need to be in order to pull a higher level of protection over the lives of the American people. And what I'm referencing is we need to deal with the spirit of tyranny. It's coming for us. And see, my concern um, is what are our lives going to be like after Trump's out of because we have some protection with Trump there. When Trump's gone, we're going to be on our own. Everybody needs to understand that. Whatever we establish right now is going to determine, after Trump is gone in after a few years, what we're going to be confronting after he's gone. Okay, and we're going to be on our own. And I just saw a video. Prophet Timothy Dixon. It's his ministry. Well, his name is Timothy V. I think it's Victor Dixon. So look up Timothy V. Dixon, and he talked about after Trump was gone, what he saw was communism came in and took over our country, and he said that they went after. He saw that some type of agency that was similar to like the FBI, but he says it wasn't the FBI. It's like the FBI was pushed out of the way. FBI, CIA, they were pushed out of the way, and there was some other some other intelligence agency or law enforcement that they took over. And what he said was that they started to go into people's houses, and they went into they went and they got the people that they deemed a threat to them, to what they're trying to promote. Kind of like what we saw like when Joe Biden was in the White House. Anybody that was speaking a word that was contrary to the radical left or the globalists, the Luciferian agenda, then those are the ones, the podcasters who were shut down or silenced or shadow banned or, just all kinds of stuff. So now he said that they went after him, they came for him, and he said there was a lot of preachers, there was a lot of ministers, a lot of pastors. They put them in a concentration camp, okay? He said, and he was sharing the video because he said in the dream, it seemed to me like people in the body of Christ, Christians, that they are asleep spiritually, and that there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, everything's going to be fine, oh, just have faith, and oh, just we'll be fine, just trust God. And he said he felt like the Lord was saying, no, that's not the right posture, that's not the right place to be right now. He says, no, things are not okay. And what we do, he didn't say this, but I'm saying this, what we do right now, or we don't do, whatever we do not take care of right now, I'm warning you, I'm warning everybody, because I feel very much a sense of urgency, and that's why I am sharing this book. This is not a nice little happy, encouraging read, but this is dire. This is dire to humanity. This is dire to the future of this nation and what happens after Trump leaves. See that anyways, Timothy Dixon. Let me get back to that. Timothy Dixon. He said that people had, the Christians, the body of Christ. He says what he was seeing is that they were asleep spiritually. They were spiritually asleep, and he said that a lot of Christians have this lackadaisical view, like, oh, everything's going to be fine, God will take care of us, and this and that, and which we're taught to believe that way, right, as Christians, and it's good to believe that way in most instances when you have a trial, when you have challenges and things like that. But in this day and hour, that's not where we're supposed to be. We need to rise up. We need to stand up. We need to, what's the word I'm looking for? We need to step it up and take the actions that are required. We have to do some damage control, is what I'll say. Right now, we only have a few years left. It's urgent. This is a warning, and it's not just me warning. There's several people that are, I'm not in the ministry, but this is what I'm seeing from my own life, from the persecution that I'm going through over here in California. this is nothing compared to what's coming after Trump leaves. We're going to be in a Holocaust. You need to understand that. I really believe that. And Elon Musk has said it out of his own mouth. Humanity will be snuffed out. Because if we get in the way of the robots, if we get in the way of, their artificial intelligence, their technocratic fantasies, what I affectionately refer to it as, if we get in their way, then humanity, he said, will be snuffed out. Okay, that's their plans. Now, I understand, from what I understand, there was somebody else that has quite a bit of knowledge, and they actually have their own. It's Mike Adams, actually. He has his own AI. It's called Enoch. He has his own AI platform. He says, it doesn't have to be that way. He says it's going to be that. If it is that way, it's because that's how Elon Musk wants it. He says humanity does not have to be snuffed out to be compatible with AI and all the technology stuff. He says it doesn't have to be that way, but that's what some of these technocrats want. They want to exterminate all of us and keep only the people that are part of who they are, and create this little fantasy world, this science fiction, fantasy world that they're pulling us into, and acting like it's this urgent need. We've been just fine without it, haven't we? We truly have. So that doesn't carry water. Anyways, Prophet Timothy Dixon, and there's other people, they are warning, they're sending warnings. They're saying, this is a warning. God told me to warn. Okay, so please don't ignore this. Please take this serious, because it is very serious. The body of Christ needs to wake up. We need to wake up to the hour that we're in. And I'm not saying that we have to be all terrified and fearful and all that, but we need to be praying. We need to get involved. If it means starting a podcast, if it means vote the way we vote, everybody participating, not people sitting on the sidelines, not taking actions, voting. Rise up. When you see groups, join the group. There's something, I think it's called Human First. Joe Allen, he comes on War Room. He's the author of Black Aeon. He has a group, and I'm going to join it just because I want to be supportive, and I want to be knowledgeable about what's, the things that he can share. So I encourage you as well. We need to get involved that way. Join these types of groups. People that are leading. They're leading the charge. They're doing their best to dismantle this tyranny. We need to support them, and we need to wake up and get involved somehow. Whether it is a podcast, whether it is write a book, whether it is however you can do it. So, make sure that we're all voting, making sure that when you have a group like what Joe Allen is starting and others, there's a lot of great people that are leading, even like anti-communist groups, things like that. Like Frank Gaffney has something that like at times things that you can sign to help to put a stop to certain bills that that our government's trying to pass, things like that. We need to get proactive. Christians have been on the sidelines, and I've been guilty myself, head in the sand, not involved in anything in society, because that's the world. We looked at it as that's the world system, and things like that. Those days are over. We have to get involved in order to put a stop to this nonsense. Okay, so anyways, okay, so this book, it jumped out at me because of that situation with the Anne Frank, The Hiding Place, that movie, her story. It's a true story. Because I read that, and because I felt like the Lord was drawing me to, to look into that. And then here we are, many, 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 many years later. And here we are, and we're confronted with communism, a threat of communism, a threat of a Holocaust, because of all the technology stuff, the artificial intelligence, the Palantir. It's going to equal a Holocaust. This is I said it last time, this is a suicide mission for us if we're going along with it. Okay. Now, we may not have a choice. Our government is choosing to do that. And, if it were up to me, I'd say shut it down.